Alright guys, let's come again. I hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far, with Atlanta FaZe fully collapsing going into the upcoming season and changing direction substantially, with the trio going their own separate ways. Shotzzy's given his opinion on exactly what went wrong with FaZe towards the end of the season and how they changed their playstyle over time to take them from being so good at the start of last season to being pretty much shambolic to their standards towards the end. Did BenJ have a point all along in terms of his criticism with this FaZe lineup? Very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoy. Subscribe if you're new as always. I greatly appreciate it. Couple of things. Major Maniac reminiscing about game battles, of course, getting shut down a little while ago, and you know, all the repercussions I suppose that has had. And just quickly, a couple of things on FaZe before we discuss what Shotzzy had to say on it. Obviously, Kaysen wasn't very happy that Cellium went his own way. aBeZy, as we know, is going his own way as well. They've still got hold of Simp for the time being. You know, who knows what'll happen in due course. Let's not forget there were some rumours before the Esports World Cup that, damn, if OpTic don't win this event, could they drop Huke for Simp? What would that look like? FaZe Codmuse actually put this out there as well. Of course, these are, you know, for now, largely rumoured rosters, but we're pretty sure that, you know, these starting teams and maybe the more promising rosters are going to be what they are. OpTic Gaming, there is no doubt there. Obviously, the FaZe guys, Simp, Drazah, Abuzah, and 04, Pred, Exnid, Cellium, Kismet, HyDra, Scrappy, Kenny, aBeZy, Neptune, Simp, Ghosty, Envoy, JoeDeceives, CleanX, Insight, and Royale. And we talked earlier today about what's going on with the Heretics team to throw into the conversation as well. The idea with this graphic was to kind of look at it and say, who's got the best talent combined when you consider like the Warzone players as well. I know that many will look at this and say, like, what are we talking about here, right? They're not even on the same planet. But, you know, there's some debate, isn't there? Because obviously the Falcons guys are very strong. We know how good Biffle is. They didn't win the World Cup, though, did they, right? That actually, I think Aiden and the boys over there won the World Cup instead. So, yeah, they, of course, were expected, I guess, to defend their title. But Biffle, Shifty, and Hisoka, they've been dominating Warzone for some time. There was questions about whether those guys could try and make it, right? Shifty famously said, well, if the bag is right, I'll come to the league and all this. But the bag is probably right on the Falcons right now. And then Biffle was one of the other players to be considered. The last couple of years, we've struggled for rookies, right? Like last year, the only rookie to start out the season was Rancor, and then the four players on the Falcons, as it was at the time, it was King of Body, Roxas, to whom came in a little bit later, King and Exnid, right? And then they brought in Wixel, they brought in King, they had, you know, some other names as well. But we know that those guys were the rookies, and then it was Rancor. But then by the end of the season, Mercules came in, and of course, and turned heads substantially. And I think the Mercules effect will affect the way that other teams think going forwards, because they're like, well, damn, if Mercules was out there somewhere, then could we try to find somebody similar for our team in the future? But the likes of Biffle for some time were considered, okay, maybe if he made the transition, he could turn heads in the league. Clearly a very talented player. Instead of being like, oh, they're only Warzone players we could bring to COD, which is pretty unlikely because lots of the guys on the Warzone side used to be Call of Duty players at some point, like, you know, CDL players, let's say, or in the pre-CDL days. Now it's about, what about the Halo players, right? I think that's where the next influx of rookies is probably going to come from. We talked about that in some more detail earlier on today. Now, there was a bit of drama with this interview here, with this guy Gorgo over at Heretics. So he sat down, he had a chat, and I'll link the entire, you know, if you speak Spanish or whatever, or maybe just read the subtitles, I'll leave the entire video linked down below if you guys want to check it out. But here are some highlights from the interview, and I thought these are pretty spectacular, right? So this is from the Heretics perspective, of course, from the ownership side over there. And this is what he has to say, discussing the franchising system being good and bad. It's good that there are teams with a granted spot, but he doesn't like how they closed off the ecosystem, national leagues, etc. And also getting rid of team namings was bad. He thinks eventually the original names will come back, which, you know, in my opinion, it's also probably kind of inevitable that we move away from the city-based stuff again. You know, EWC doesn't have the city-based stuff. EWC is probably going to be here for a little bit of time to come. It's not happened yet, though, getting rid of the city names, and I think, like, every year they have a vote on it, I think, and unless the teams are, like, unanimously in agreement, it's probably not going to change yet. I know that there are some that, oh, they want the CDL to end and to die so then we can get the CWL reborn from the ashes. I think there are some problems with that assessment. I think it's better for the CDL to simply transition in a more positive way, and I think that's what lots of the owners want. The interesting thing is, though, that the owners will, most of them, at least the ones that speak publicly, will say, look, we would want a more open system. We like the idea of having, yeah, as he says, it's nice to have a granted spot, but it would be nice to have it more open to other challengers teams. you know, okay, promotion relegation isn't going to happen if the organizations are paying money to be in the league, which is not the same way that it used to be. It used to be like a buy-in, as we know. I think now there is some sort of like ongoing fee that the teams pay to be a part of the league. I'm not 100% sure how the structure works. But as he goes on to say, I like the format, I think it's perfect, but I don't like that the league is on YouTube only. I like that they gave more importance to skins, and that Challengers was more united to the CDL. There are no upcoming players from our country. There are a few kids, but they're 16, they can't even play Challengers. We're just so bad, we need more talent, which is, you know, like anyone who has a brain knows that this is like such a major problem that needs to be solved. As he says, the Spanish scene, he would love to keep Heretics as a Spanish organization for a long time to come. But they were in some sense lucky that Rencor and Super, I mean, no pun intended to lucky, but, you know, the Rencor and Super were great Spanish players who were out there in challenges for some time and they could go and sign. The next up Spanish players, you know, in 4 or 5 years, what's the Heretics team going to be if they want to keep the Spanish project, which I think is good for the scene. I think it's good that we have a Spanish team. You know, it was cool that we had a Saudi team, although that was probably unsustainable. But it's great that we can have a Spanish team that can be competitive. In my opinion, it's a great thing for the scene and for the growth of the scene. But as he says, it's like, well, we've got some Spanish kids out there that are talented. They're trying to follow in the footsteps of some of the guys that have gone up to the Pro League now with Heretics, but they can't even play challenges because they're not 18 yet. Like, what are we doing here? And it was a major issue back in the day as well. So that's like, if I could change one thing about the league, I would change that immediately and make challenges playable if you're 16 or something like that anyway. But the other thing that is probably more dramatic here is this. There is a big lack of professionality in COD. It's a wild game like that because we allow trash talk and stuff, but I think that things need to be more regularized. Now, what he's talking about is one specific issue that Shotzzy talked about the other day. There's a lot of looking the other way when it comes to certain issues. Player performance issues. There's very little oversight over that. The entire league, or a large portion of the league, I'd say the league is the most prescribed and detected people with attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, ADHD, in the world. It's incredible. The diversity is crazy, and that can't be. And this is something that is important. So I think there needs to be fewer hyperactives in the league, that we need to address this. A lot of people talk about professionalizing this, but if that's the case, then we have to do it with everything. So if you guys don't know what he's talking about here, he's talking about basically Adderall abuse in the league, right? Now, we know that they do testing so that you can't just slam pills before your game. But if you've got a prescription that says, oh, well, you've got attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, so this is basically part of your prescription, even if these players who have the little sheet from the doctor or whatever probably says, oh, this is the amount you can take, and even if they're way over that number, I don't know how the rules on that work. So, you know, he, without saying it, he's basically saying that it's a joke, that tons of the players in the league turn up with a little sheet that says, oh, well, I can use this stuff because I've definitely got ADHD, and he's like, it would be a bit of a surprise if we did. It's like a load of Olympic swimmers these days turning up and suddenly having asthma so that they can use their like asthma pump to just make their airways bigger before they swim. It was a big drama at last year's Olympics with the American team. I don't know if you guys are aware of that. Look into it, it's pretty interesting stuff. So yeah, similar stuff kind of thing here. It's not obviously not quite at the same level, but you know what I'm saying. There's some like basically things that you can use to enhance your performance that turn out to be legal through various loopholes. It's always going to be a thing. So, yeah, he says that they don't own the spot. It's a collaboration with him and Misfits, them and Misfits. They were trying to re-sign Metals, as we think is really good. I also agree. And, you know, Koi is good news for joining because there's a rivalry there. So that's pretty much what he had to say. The other clips that I wanted to share were from this podcast episode's very entertaining stuff from start to finish. But the guys were talking especially about FaZe and what went wrong because they started the season so well. They made the three-peats happen. If people expected them to blow it up, they might not have thought it would have been this year, given the way the season started. But Shotzzy says, based on their analysis, there are a few things that were holding them back substantially.
What am I looking at right now?
No, I can't look at this.
Is this their stage 2 online matches? You are so teed. The fuck is this? It's all color coded. This is insane, bro.
Wait, this is yours, Riley? No. Liar. I'm wrong.
Yeah, what? This shit's yours, bro.
Nah, it's actually crazy. But hey, I don't have to play against these guys, bro, so fuck it. I will say playing against them, like, back then to now, it's, like, completely different. I will say that. I feel like they just kind of, like, overthink the fuck out of the game.
Yeah, last time I played against them, they were fucking insane.
Nah, yeah, they were.
In Cold War, they were insane.
Nah, they were insane.
always
But
thought-
that's the thing though, bro. Actually, yeah, matter of fact, like, so going from that play style, like, you just, bro, because what I remember, all they would do is just bang the front of the hill and like literally just chow the fuck out of you for the most part. That was kind of like their play style, like very, very aggro. Wouldn't really like second guess what the fuck they're doing. Whereas if like when you played them now, like it was so fucking weird. Then like they fucking, I don't know, they weren't even like banging. Like they were like, I feel like the only one that was like actually like doing it like that, but he was forcing the fuck out of it was Zach. Zach was like the only one that was like trying to put pressure.
What was aBeZy doing?
It was like,
I was gonna say I thought aBeZy was the only one banging.
it was doing it, but
I think that's all he did.
I swear, like, I don't know, whenever I was playing against him, he was kind of like overthinking, like,
You're saying it was
He's
HyDra?
probably like, holy shit, it's Shotzzy.
like let's say like what'd you say? Well, no, because like for whatever reason, like apparently they were the worst at like 4 down situations, like kind of just like, yo, make it to spawn on one side. And I guess everyone would always critique Abe that like whenever they were in a 4 down situation, he would like try to get space and then he'd spawn one out, and it's kind of just like they're getting sandwiched. Apparently that was like one of his biggest problems, but
He was going too fast.
But nah, he definitely was. I mean, it was him and Zach that definitely were the fastest, but it just seemed like they were in like different pages. But I mean, now what? MC's on the Falcons with fucking AG. I think Kismet is rumored, and who's the other one? Excellent.
Wait, so what team is Simp on? Is he still on FaZe?
Yeah, Simp's on FaZe with Zach and Abuzah, I think. And who's the other guy? 04 Twin.
Okay.
Pretty fascinating to hear from Shotzzy what he thought and what the team thought were the issues. Clearly, they had done their research, they'd done their analysis as well, and, you know, Shotzzy says that the perception was that FaZe, statistically, when they were 4 dead, were horrible at making it back, because, at least to some degree, aBeZy was, you know, he would maybe go in, he would die, he would stagger the team, and that was a pretty common issue they ran into. Even what he said there, he felt at the end of the year, they lost a bit of their confidence, they weren't playing in the same way they were before. Drazah was actually the man pushing the pace on the map rather than the other guys, and yeah, the team just felt very different to play against than they did at the start of the season. I think we've seen that with FaZe before, right? Yeah, at times they look really good, but when their confidence kind of goes, they, you know, again, I also think it comes back to comms, the way they do their communication in game. I don't think they have an ability to bounce back from setbacks in the way that other teams do. OpTic historically have been, certainly the last couple of years, very good at this. And it's just been a very consistent story of this team at the end of the season just not being particularly competitive at the biggest tournaments. We saw it at the World Championship, we saw it at the World Cup as well. So look, was aBeZy the key man to play there? I think a lot of the criticism this season was going to aBeZy, certainly in their hardpoints. I think for good reason, to be honest. BenJ was obviously very, very critical about aBeZy for a long time now, not just this season. And well, eventually he's parting ways with the team. So what does it mean? You know, if aBeZy goes to Thieves, we think that's going to be happening. Is he, you know, how's it going to work with HyDra? Has he got something to prove over there? Of course, everyone's got something to prove, but I thought it was pretty interesting assessment really from Shotzzy and OpTic as to where FaZe started last year, where they ended, and where some of their key issues were potentially stemming from. aBeZy may not see it that way, right? And certainly he's butted head to BenJ on this topic for some time. But as always, very much intrigued to your thoughts on all this stuff in the comment section below. Hit the like button if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new, take care, and I'll see you next time.